So one thing I was going to say there, because obviously we've talked about Oloroso. Do you have any PX casks maturing then?
Yes, we've got PX. We've had that and trialled that for a few years now. But a lot of companies are trying different types of wines, you know, between Finos, Manzanillas, Amontillado, creams, Muscatels. So, I mean, the sherry industry, I mean, the products are fantastic, but I think now people are starting to explore the different options that's available. You know, not just in sherry wines, but in other previous liquids as well.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Alistair, because Alistair's an absolutely massive Macallan fan. So I'm pretty sure he could probably take up a whole day chatting to you on his own. So I'm assuming Alistair's got some questions. So I'll hand over to you, Alistair, and see if you've got any.
Terrific. Yeah, thanks very much. And I won't take up the whole day. Thanks, Soren. Hi, Stuart. I don't expect you'll remember me. I met you outside Williams and Humbert in September 2016, outside the bodega. I think you were showing one of the new brand ambassadors around, and I came running up to you like a fan. I've got just two questions, if that's okay. You know, one of them's very much a Macallan fan question. You know, I think it's fair to say that the decision making from Macallan and its various owners over the last 30, 40 years has been pretty good. There's been very few bad decisions, you know, and that's flowed now into the latest advertising campaign, that emphasises taking a chance and making bold making bold decisions. And your tenure and your time at Macallan, is there anything that you look back and you wish you'd done differently, or wish that you'd steered in a different direction?
That's a good question. I mean, as I say, operationally, I covered all our brands, between Macallan, Glenrothes, Highland Park, and Famous Grouse. And so that kind of knowledge in cask manufacturing lended itself to all of the brands. And it's only kind of latterly that there's always been a focus for Macallan, because that's been the driver for Edrington. It's been, our core product. I think for me, innovation is very much, I think, the driver, and I think that's where I would like to see us going in the future. I think, consumers now are looking for something different, and how are you able to offer that to them? I don't know. There's a kind of working between what our marketing team see in the global markets from consumers and feedbacks, and then obviously what the whiskey making team can then start to deliver in styles and characters. To be honest with you, it's a difficult one. I think we have, as I think one of the benefits that we've looked at is we've got a lot closer to our suppliers in Spain to bring on their knowledge and understanding just about the influencing factors in spirit development. I think so many people are quite happy to talk about wooden casks, but not necessarily understanding that true benefit and importance that they have in maturing spirit.
Thanks very much. Just to let you know, I've brought up my bottle of 15 double cask.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, I'm in Glasgow and I'm visiting my friends and family for the weekend.
Right.
So I'll be disappearing downstairs for a barbecue soon.
Hopefully the weather stays dry.
Yeah. We should have had it yesterday. It was far better yesterday. But I had the Rangers game to watch.
Oh well.
Other question. It's about the supply chain in Spain. So you've got three big contracts, and as I'm sure there's lots of low level players in that industry, and small contracts. You mentioned earlier on as well, that a sad sort of fact of what's happening in the industry over there is that a lot of bodegas are closing. and they are selling off, are being forced to sell off their Solera casks. They're I think the industry calls it old wood.
Yeah,
and a lot of those Solera casks are getting traded by the very, very small brokers, rather than the big players. Are you, on behalf of Edrington or on behalf of Macallan, are you planning to contract with any of the small traders and get some ex-Solera casks or anything like that? Could we see an ex-Solera cask finished expression or matured expression in the future? Because a lot of these, they're not quite the tired disposal condition ex-Solera casks that usually come exit in a bodega. They've still got a bit of life in them, these ones.
It's not something that we've considered, and to be honest, I think with the way our contracts, with the way we kind of look and monitor and control our processes, it's not something that we would then change.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think
that's pretty much confirming what I suspected. Given the scale that you're operating at.
Yeah. I mean, it's about being able to have that continuity and consistency, and that's really one of the reasons why we do look at traceability and sustainability, because as the brand grows and develops, it's ensuring that you actually have the fundamental products, i.e. the trees to meet your demand, and whether they're the right type as well. So that's
terrific. Thanks very much.
You're welcome, Alistair.
Cheers.
What he didn't actually tell you there was when he says he accidentally bumped into you, it's like it says in the chat, he'd been camping there for about a month prior, waiting for you to turn up. So
you know me too well.
He is actually an official stalker. There is a restraining order from Macallan on Alistair.
Yeah, I need to wear a disguise when I go up to Easter Elkies now.
Yeah. But, I think Ed had another question for you. Did you, Ed?
Yep. Yes, I did. Yeah. I understand that Edrington have one of the biggest sort of sherry cask programs in whiskey. Is that the case? And I guess in terms of how you would describe the quality of the casks that you're getting, is that just sort of down to the sort of 30 years of partnerships or the particular bodegas that you're working with?
So we are, to your first point, Edward, we are the largest company with seasoning casks in Jerez. We obviously, legislation changed to be called sherry. It has to be within the sherry triangle. So basically, we've got predominantly all our casks in Jerez de la Frontera, although you do have the option of using Porto Santa Maria or San Luca de Barrameda. I have seen other companies' volumes increase simply because there's maybe an opportunity that they see within that certain style and character of their spirit, and maybe because of the growth of Macallan, that significant growth in the last 25 years, basically.
Let's push that forward.
Yeah. And sorry, the second point there was about
just sort of what you would sort of speak to
the relationship. Sorry,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. We, a lot of that before was with these suppliers, and we've kept with the forecast suppliers, pretty much for 30 plus years, and their businesses have grown and flourished through obviously the popularity and growth of Macallan and some of our other brands. But I firmly believe that it is these relationships. It is about that understanding and passing on that knowledge to these suppliers, so that they, which ultimately is probably beneficial to a number of other companies, but it is helpful when you've worked and built up that relationship for so long.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
I mean, what one sort of other question I was going to ask you, within the Edrington Group, we know there are a couple of other distilleries that are very sherry dominated as well. So is it your job to pick casks for them, or are you purely just for Macallan?
I'm purely just for Macallan now.
Yeah.
So in the past, so my focus now as part of the business unit is part of that whisky mastery team to work with the whisky makers, but is driven now by Macallan. In the past, it was very much about Glenrothes, Highland Park, and Macallan in itself.
Yeah, because what I was going to say is within that, I mean, I know you have your own cooperages and things like that, but obviously there's the small cooperage at Glenrothes as well. So I'm taking they have nothing to do with Macallan anymore in that sense.
No, they'll repair casks for us. So basically, you were right earlier in saying that we only fill our casks twice, predominantly twice. Now, as part of that assessment of the liquid from the whisky team, after the first fill, these casks then might need repaired, and in that instance, they would probably go to a small cooperage in Rothes, or they would come down to our main cooperage in Addywell, which is So no, they're still, from a repair perspective, still involved in repairing casks for Macallan.
I mean, one interesting bit with that then is you're obviously using a lot of first fill because you're wanting that big, heavy-hitting sherry notes, whereas a lot of understanding is that the second fill will show a lot more of the distillery profile. So do you kind of sense the fact of that you might go that way with more second fill, or will it always be kind of a lot more first fill with second fill added?
I think it will be influenced by sherry. You do need the refill casks, to be quite honest with you, but by improving, by having quality refills, it then allows you to look at the quality, or lets the whisky making team look at the quality of that new make spirit in the first fill casks against the product profile that they're trying to create, that then allows them to use refill.
Yeah, and with that then, so I know we kind of asked on it earlier, but does Macallan have any thoughts on using virgin wood then, virgin oak?
We've done some trials with virgin oak for other reasons, but I think there then it takes it a slightly different way. It's a different style. One, it's not sherry seasoned, obviously, if it's virgin, and the other one is then some of the characteristics that you'll obviously get from a virgin oak, which will be a lot more kind of woody and green, because it's not had that initial previous liquid to extract some of these impurities, say, from the wood.
Yeah, and within that then, so we know you're obviously using, like we say, first and second fill. Does any of those, I take it the third fill in the sense will then go down to maybe the blended side, or rather than maybe to Glenrothes or Highland Park?
Yeah, I mean, they grade them in such a way that, some of them could be used for Glenrothes and Highland Park, and other ones will be used for grain, basically for grouse.
And one question I was going to ask, which is kind of not really a remit of Macallan, so you can refuse to answer this if you want, but with peated whiskies then in oak, we kind of know the longer they mature, the less effect that the peat has on the spirit odor. Is that because of the wood? And if so, how does that work? Because if you then put a new liquid into that oak, you then get the smokiness back out of it. So what's determining the peated levels dropping in oak?
Maybe not. I prefer maybe not to answer that one, but I mean, it's You're right. I mean, I remember I said about M Black. I kind of, although they talk about peatiness, for me it was more about a smokiness because the ppms were so low, as against to something like Lafroig, where you have a very high ppm level in it as well. So no, it's not probably something that's in round about my field, to be quite honest with you.
Right, no, it's fine. Yeah, I knew I was kind of clutching at straws with that one. But it was just, I mean, does anybody else in the group have any more questions?
I've got a couple, if that's okay.
Yep, go on then, Fiona.
And apologies, I'm a bit COVID-y today.
Yeah,
is there an apprenticeship scheme for the cooperage? I'm not volunteering.
All
I'm
right.
just curious.
No, there is. I mean, I think that's one of the plus points that's came out of this is Scotch has sales and growth of Scotch whisky has increased significantly. There was a demise in coopering as such. I mean, when I first started in 1979, there was probably over 1,500 coopers in Scotland or in the UK, and then you had the whole demise of the industry really in 1982, where the last thing you need if you're not distilling spirit is cooperages and coopers. So probably over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been very positive recruitment drives from major distillers companies and subcontracted companies, commercial cooperages, to actually increase the amount of apprentices within the industry, which is fantastic.
That's absolutely wonderful. And out of interest, what happened to the casks when you finished using them?
Us in general, well, I mean, they're either used as planters to garden centres, or they're chipped, or they're disposed of, to be honest with you.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I've just had a whiskey pen, and just the smell of that is absolutely wonderful. It just seems so sad they've given so much, and then they're out in the garden growing lilies.
I think there's a number of things. I mean, people turn them into furniture now. There's all different kind of business opportunities for what people would like to do with casks. I mean, we might sell them on to other companies or other cooperages for other businesses to use, but generally there's so many opportunities of different products that you could make from a stave or a barrel.
I was hoping you were going to say they were going to make more whiskey elsewhere, but now I'm picturing them being really sad and lonely in the garden centres.
Well, there is some companies that will buy them, and I think that comes back down to, how much does somebody see a cask just as a vessel, or do they actually see it as an influencing product to their spirit? And that's interesting in itself. But there will be companies who will reuse our casks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else got a question? Jens is pretty quiet today. He normally has quite a few, but are you staying out of it today, Jens?
No, I think Stuart actually managed to answer most of the questions along the way. I think one of them was getting wines from outside Jerez as well, and I think he alluded to that as well. That
yeah, well, Jens, to be called sherry or sherry wine, there was a number of cask manufacturers or wines being seasoned out with the area, and a few years ago the Consejo Regulador tightened up the legislation to say that if it was to be called sherry, it must season within the sherry triangle, which was San Lucar de Barrameda, Porto Santa Maria and Jerez. So you can manufacture casks out with the area, but they must season within to be called sherry casks.
Any more questions from anybody?
Yeah, Stuart, just a question about sort of seasoning. I don't know if this is a question that you could answer, but Do you think seasoning kind of started around the time, sort of like, mid-80s, when the transport casks stopped being used? Has it been going on for that long, or?
No, I think any casks that were used to bring sherry to the UK or as transport vessels was a seasoning cask as such. They were made specifically for the transport of that wine from the original Celleras into the respective
I guess it is
into markets. Yeah. So it's probably going a lot longer. I think what then just happened in the early 80s was that you had to bottle that product, so the casks themselves didn't become available.
Yeah, and more a sort of case of it's sort of switching from taking those transport casks to actually then going to bodegas and asking them to specifically season casks for you.
Yes, yeah. And then basically or the cooperages to say, look, these casks that you were making as part of that transport wine, we need the casks now. So that relationship was really between a cooperage and a bodega. So what we've got is some cooperages who will manufacture casks for us, who don't have bodegas, but we then have agreements with the bodegas that they will accept their casks.
Yeah, got it. Brilliant.